You wake up to the same morning light streaming through your window, the same scent of coffee brewing in the kitchen, the same quiet hum of the world before it fully awakens. Everything feels normal until you check your phone, a single email, a subject line that freezes the breath in your lungs. We regret to inform you. The words blur, the room tilts. You reread it, convinced it must be a mistake, but reality does not yield to denial. You are no longer employed. The security you once took for granted has vanished in a single click, a sterile corporate message severing you from the life you built. At first there is only silence, then the questions come like a storm. What did I do wrong? How will I pay the bills? Who am I if I no longer have this job? No one warns you that job loss is not just financial but existential. It is a tearing away of an identity you spent years cultivating. Society has conditioned you to equate your worth with your productivity, your dignity with your ability to earn. And now, in the absence of that role, a whisper emerges from the shadows of your mind. Do I even matter anymore? They say adversity builds character. They say every setback is an opportunity. But what if they are wrong? What if instead, this moment reveals a fundamental flaw in the way we define ourselves? What if job loss is not just a crisis, but a mirror? A brutal, unforgiving reflection of a truth we spend our lives avoiding. Some rise from these ashes stronger than before. Others are swallowed whole, fading into bitterness and despair. What separates the two? Is it luck, resilience, or something far deeper? Something hidden beneath the surface of everything we think we know? The answer lies not in the loss itself, but in what it exposes. And that revelation will change everything. But first we must understand the enemy. You were never just working a job. You were crafting an identity. From the moment you first earned a paycheck, an invisible script was handed to you: work hard, climb the ladder, define yourself by what you do. Society never asks who you are, it asks what you are. Titles replace names, performance replaces presence, and so, without realizing it, you become woven into a system that convinces you that your value is transactional, and then one day it ends. The script is torn from your hands, and you are left staring at a blank page. Psychologists call this identity foreclosure, the premature commitment to an external identity before true self-exploration. You were never taught to exist outside of productivity. You were taught to be your job. And when that job is taken from you, what remains? Friedrich Nietzsche warned of this illusion in Thus Spoke Zarathustra. He who has a why to live can bear almost any how. But here's the hidden tragedy. What if your why was never truly yours? What if it was a borrowed purpose, handed to you by a system that never cared about your essence, only your output? Carl Jung would call this the persona, the mask you wear for society, the construct that allows you to function in the world. But masks crack, and when they do, something terrifying happens. You see the void underneath. This is the silent terror of job loss. Not just financial instability, but existential erosion. Aldous Huxley warned that most people never face this void because they are too distracted by routine, entertainment, or survival. But you have been forced into confrontation. The question is, what will you do with it? Most retreat into panic. They scramble to replace what was lost, desperate to patch the hole in their identity before the silence gets too loud. But a rare few pause. They stare into the abyss, not with fear but with curiosity. Because hidden within this crisis is an opportunity, one that few ever recognize. But to grasp it, you must first understand the deeper trap. What if the real problem isn't that you lost your job, but that you were conditioned to believe you are your job? The moment you introduce yourself to someone new, the question follows almost instinctively: so what do you do? Not who are you, not what do you love, but what is your function? Arthur Schopenhauer once argued that most human suffering comes from attachment to external validation. We chase approval, status, and security, believing they form the foundation of our worth. But what happens when they vanish? When the applause stops, when the world no longer assigns you a title, are you still someone, or do you become no one? This is where despair takes root. You are not just grieving the loss of income, you are grieving the loss of meaning. And meaning is the scaffolding of the human mind. Without it, the walls collapse. Jean-Paul Sartre called this the agony of radical freedom. When your identity is stripped away, you are left staring at a terrifying realization. I must define myself. No more scripts, no more job descriptions. Just the raw, untamed potential of being. An unbearable weight for those who have never been taught how to carry it. So most people run. They drown the silence in distractions, self-pity, or blind panic, searching for the next job, the next title, the next reason to avoid asking the only question that truly matters. Who am I beyond my labor? Because this isn't just about you, it's about the entire system. A system that thrives on people believing they are replaceable. A system that convinces you that your worth can be measured in output. It wants you to panic, to scramble, to feel lesser without its validation. But what if that was never true? What if losing your job wasn't a loss at all, but an invitation? An invitation to reclaim something you never realized was stolen. But first you must see the unseen chains that have bound you. There is a reason why losing a job feels like losing a part of yourself. It is not just financial survival at stake, it is ontological survival. Ontology, the study of being, asks the fundamental question, what does it mean to exist? And for most of your life, the answer has been given to you by society. You exist to work, you exist to contribute, you exist to earn. This is not new. The Industrial Revolution did not just mechanize labor, it mechanized identity. Before factories and offices, people were artisans, storytellers, philosophers, explorers. Work was something you did, not something you were. But capitalism required a shift. It needed predictable, interchangeable workers, so it crafted a new philosophy. You are your job. Your value is in your efficiency. Your worth is in your productivity. And now, without warning, you have been ejected from that system. And here is the terrifying truth. The system does not care. Nietzsche warned against this existential void, calling it nihilism. When the structures we relied on collapse, meaning becomes untethered. The illusion that held your world together has cracked, and for the first time, you are seeing reality without its comforting veil. It is a lonely place to be. But loneliness is not the enemy, it is the doorway. Viktor Frankl, the psychologist who survived Auschwitz, discovered something profound in the face of absolute devastation. Meaning is not something given, it is something created. In the absence of structure, in the collapse of identity, you are left with a rare and sacred opportunity, the chance to define yourself on your own terms. But most never take that step. They retreat, searching for the quickest escape back into the old system. Because staying in the unknown, staying in the space of unformed potential, is unbearable. But what if you endured it? What if, instead of running, you chose to stand still in the storm? Because beyond the storm lies something far more dangerous than despair. The unseen consequences of never breaking free. There is a danger far greater than losing your job. It is the slow erosion of self, the unconscious return to a system that was never designed for your liberation. The unseen consequence is not just economic hardship, it is the surrender of your soul to the machinery of routine, the quiet death of a mind too afraid to confront its own depth. Most people, after losing their jobs, do not seek meaning, they seek escape. A new application, a rushed interview, a desperate acceptance of any role that will restore the illusion of stability, not because they truly desire it, but because they cannot bear the silence. The silence that asks, who are you when no one is watching? This is the insidious nature of the system. It does not need to chain you, if it can convince you to shackle yourself. And so the cycle repeats. You take another job, become another cog, place another mask over the one that cracked, and the world applauds. Look, they bounced back. Look, they're productive again. But something inside you knows the truth. The unease lingers in the quiet moments, the way you hesitate before answering what do you do, the way you feel a slight emptiness, even in success. You wonder if you really overcame the fall, or if you simply found a way to numb its impact. And so time passes. The machine reclaims you, and you forget that, for a brief terrifying moment, you glimpsed something beyond it. This is the unseen tragedy. Not that you lost your job, but that you lost your chance to awaken. Nietzsche once wrote, "He who fights with monsters should look to it that he does not become a monster." What if the greatest monster of all is complacency? What if the true loss is not of employment, but of the self that dared to question everything? But there is another path, one that few take. one that requires rebellion. The rebellion against everything you were taught to believe. The greatest prison is not made of walls, but of unquestioned beliefs. Most people live their entire lives within invisible boundaries, boundaries drawn by expectations, by conditioning, by the quiet pressure to conform. And the system counts on this. It thrives on your fear of the unknown, your need for validation, your willingness to trade freedom for familiarity. But what if you saw the bars for what they really were? Cognitive scientists call this learned helplessness, the condition where a person, after repeated setbacks, stops trying to escape even when the door is open. You are not chained, you are conditioned to believe you are. This is the consequence of never questioning the system. You become its willing captive, and the worst part, you don't even realize it. But now you do, and once you see the bars, you can never unsee them. The question is, what will you do with this knowledge? Most will look away, but some will rise. Some will choose rebellion. And rebellion starts with one radical act: breaking free. Rebellion does not begin with fire. It begins with a whisper, the whisper of a mind that refuses to sleepwalk through existence any longer. The world told you that losing your job was a failure, that your worth was tied to a title, a paycheck, a role within the machine. But now you know the truth. You were never your job. You were something far greater. And now you have a choice: return to the comfort of illusion, or step into the raw, terrifying power of self-reinvention. Most people choose comfort, not because they are weak, but because they have been trained to fear uncertainty more than they fear mediocrity. But the ones who truly rise from the ashes, they embrace the uncertainty. They do what the system never wanted them to do. They stop looking for permission. Jean-Paul Sartre wrote, "Man is nothing else but what he makes of himself." If this is true, then the real revolution is not finding another job, but reclaiming authorship over your own story. So where do you begin? Not with another job application, not with frantic attempts to rebuild what was lost, but with a single radical shift. You question everything. What do you truly want? Beyond survival, beyond social expectations. What would you create if you weren't chasing approval? What kind of life would you build if there were no rules but your own? This is where the rebellion begins, not in violence, not in destruction, but in self-definition. And here's the secret: no one tells you those who break free are the ones who stop trying to fit into a system that was never built for them in the first place. They build their own. Some start businesses, some create art, some redefine success on their own terms. But they all have one thing in common: they refuse to let society dictate their worth. The system only has power over you if you believe in its rules. So what happens when you rewrite them? Because the final truth is waiting. And once you see it, you can never go back. Here it is, the truth they never wanted you to see. You were never meant to be just a worker. You were never meant to be a cog in someone else's machine, defined by your output, shackled to a role that could be stripped from you at any moment. That was the illusion. The system convinced you that your worth was external, that your identity was a label, that your survival depended on compliance. But losing your job did not take anything from you. It revealed what was already missing. And now you stand at a threshold. One path leads back into the machine, back to comfort, back to forgetting. The other leads into the unknown, into self-reliance, into the terrifying, exhilarating realization that no one is coming to save you, but you never needed saving in the first place. Viktor Frankl once said, "When we are no longer able to change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves." This is the secret the system fears. The moment you stop searching for validation, you become untouchable. The moment you define success on your terms, you become free. And freedom, true freedom, is not about having a job or losing one. It is about never again outsourcing your sense of purpose. So what now? Do you rebuild what was lost? Or do you create something that can never be taken from you? Because the ashes are not your grave, they are your beginning. The fire burned away the illusion, now you rise.